Hey, for those of you who are just tuning in, we are live right now. It's been a couple minutes. We had a hiccup. I'm not really sure what happened, but we did have a hiccup. But we are live now, and Mr. Fountain was actually here from Ghana, and I'm hoping that he can come on and join us again. We also have a special co-host this evening, Roland, and I'm hoping that he can also join us. But in the meantime, we are going to listen to. I think we're going to have enough time. We're going to listen to a little music while they come in. Give us just another minute. Okay, we do have our co-host in here, so no need for that. Now we're just waiting on Mr. Fountain to connect. Thank you so much for connecting right away. Appreciate it. I already have a comment. Hey, hello, can you hear me? She said I do not hear anything. Elliot, say something.
Hi, you can't hear anything?
Yeah, can you hear anything now? I am going to scream. If we can't hear anything, then
Don't scream.
this is like the second. This is like there was another broadcast I was supposed to be involved with, and oh, you can hear good. They had issues
Great.
too. They had connection issues too. I don't know what the problem is.
What's
Mr.
something about today?
They were talking about, I don't know, black men being viewed as whatever. Anyway, it didn't come on because they never could connect. So, oh, Mr. Fountain got here from wait. Now, if he got here this quick from Ghana, now you know that's a shame. Okay, we're gonna start this over again. Hello, Mr. Fountain. Wow. Okay, we are going to. Hey, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you. Those that are on, please say hello and thank you for being so patient. Don't know what happened. I don't know, but something did happen. So I'm going to start over from the top. And I didn't even get to read the scripture, so I'm going to start from the top. Tonight we have a special guest. You see him right here on the screen, John Fountain, and I'm going to read his bio. I know it's going to be somewhat of an embarrassment for him to be there while I read it, but oh well, he'll get over it. John W. Fountain is a native son of Chicago's West Side. John W. Fountain is an award-winning columnist, journalist, professor, publisher, and author of True Line, A Young Black Man's Journey of Faith, Hope, and Clarity, and Dear Dad, Reflections on Fatherhood. A tenured full professor of journalism at Roosevelt University, he writes a weekly Sunday column for the Chicago Sun-Times. As a journalist, Fountain has chronicled the story of murder for 30 years, mostly in Chicago. He is a 2021-22 Fulbright Scholar to Ghana, where he is teaching at the University of Ghana at Legon and completing a research project, Africa Calling, Portraits of Black Americans Drawn to the Motherland. He was a winner in December 2021 of a first place National Association of Black Journalists Salute to Excellence Award in newspaper column writing. He and his students project the Unforgotten 51, which was about the unsolved murders of 51 mostly African American women in Chicago. He also won a first place in a BJ Award. In November 2021, Fountain won second place Dorothy Stork Award from the Chicago Journalists Association for his column. In 2016, 14, and 2011, he received the Peter Lesagor Award for Best News Column or Commentary at a daily newspaper with a circulation of more than 250,000. Fountain was formerly a national correspondent for the New York Times and a staff writer at the Washington Post and the Chicago Tribune, where he was once that newspaper's chief crime reporter. Throughout his career, Fountain has received numerous awards for his work. He was previously a professor of journalism at his alma mater, the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and is a graduate of Providence St. Mel School, Chicago. He often shares his inspirational story of going from poverty and the urban mean streets of Chicago's West Side to the top of his profession. Fountain is founder of West Side Press Publishing Chicago. He is also the author of 5 books, including his latest, Soul Cries, in Black and White and Shades of Gray. He is a frequent guest commentator on radio and television. And you see him right in front of us, all the way from Ghana. Help me welcome a loud cheer and clap for Mr. Fountain, who came back twice because of and he was telling us. One of the things I asked him, Cynthia, thanks for tuning in. Taylor, thanks for staying on. Thank you, appreciate it. Share. Anybody else that's on, please say hello. Say hello to Mr. Fountain, who greets us all the way from Ghana. He was telling us, he mentioned in the bio about his humble beginnings. I don't know if he said humble. Was that the word you used? But his beginnings on the West Side to where he's at now at the top of his game. And he was telling us about that. Could you expand on that, Mr. Fountain?
Well, I grew up in the church, in the Pentecostal church. And a lot of times preachers, a lot of them from the South Side would say, can any good thing come out of the West Side?
Got their nerve.
They always say that.
They always say that. And we West Siders would say, the West Side is the best side. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And it's not just because best rhymes with West. And it is, I grew up in a place, I grew up in K-Town, on the streets, as begin with the letter K, Kedville, Karloff, Costner. I grew up on Kaminsky, on 16th Street, 16th and Kaminsky.
Oh, okay.
So 16th Street was kind of a rough place. And, but I'm so glad that I had a mama who didn't play. And someone asked me recently, so how did you avoid gangs and drugs? I said, because I had a good mama. And she was tough. And I had some other systems in place, including the church and including Providence St. Mel and mentors and so on. So it is a humble place. If you had told me as a young man that I would grow up to be, or you had me with my cousins, and there were 15 of us, and you said one of you is going to become a journalist, and one of you is going to travel the world, and one of you is going to be meeting presidents, one of you is going to all your dreams in terms of writing are going to come true. Not only would I not have picked me, but I don't think anybody in my family would have picked me. We were the poorest of the poor. And I say that sometimes in humble beginnings that my shoes had holes in the bottom of them. And so I would try to hide them underneath the desk at school or underneath the wooden pews at church. And I had one suit as I became a young man, and I had worn that suit so long that the inside lining had worn out. So we were dancing sanctified church folks. So if I felt like the Spirit was going to move me, I would button my jacket up real quickly so that I could dance and the saints couldn't see the holes in my jacket.
Oh, geez.
But somebody said I had a praying grandmother who was sweetly saved, and she believed in me, and she believed in the word of God. And she said, you trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not to your own understanding, and all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. And so I still did not believe, but, I had enough faith to say, Lord, help my unbelief. Help me to continue to hold on despite being on welfare, despite in the dead of a Chicago winter, our gas and lights being disconnected, despite the fact that, I just didn't have the means that so many of my friends and even people in my family had. And, but God has blessed, and it was through not only faith, but it was through hard work and the willingness to continue and to never give up, to continue to do and to never give up.
What a testimony. That is indeed a test. I always try to acknowledge the people that are making the comments in the peanut gallery. And I'm just joking. I'm not calling you guys peanut gallery. But someone had a question here. Believe me, you don't have to answer it. And if there's anything that's off limits, again, you could always say, we can move on to the next thing. There's so much to talk about. Someone just jumped up. Someone said, I'm a believer. Someone said, is he married? Okay.
Yes, I am.
Yes, he is. Did you hear that?
He is married. Keep your paws off of them.
God, you're thirsty. Wait, you're thirsty, though. I can't say what I wanted to say because we're keeping this. We're gonna keep this good.
Be nice.
Okay, so now your bio only talked about a few things. You didn't talk about the recent things so much. I want to talk about Africa Calling, because that kind of intrigued me. How long have you been in Ghana?
I've been in Ghana since November of this past year.
Was this your first trip to Ghana, or you been there before?
This was actually my second trip. I first visited Ghana in 2007 during their 50-year celebration of independence.
Okay, so you're in Ghana and have been living there and will be there for a while. Can you walk us through a typical day? Now, are you in Accra? Are you in the capital, or what part of Ghana are you in?
I'm in Accra. I'm
Okay.
in a neighborhood called East. Well, I probably shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say online. We are told as Fulbrighters not to fully say exactly where we are to publicize that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
No, it's okay.
No
I am in the greater Accra region.
Okay.
But I've made it my point of getting around Ghana, so I've been in a number of places.
Okay. I want you to take us through a typical day. I mean, I imagine it's probably similar to here, but if there's any differences, take us through your typical day in Ghana.
My typical day in Ghana begins waking up in the morning, and I teach now a couple of days a week on Monday and Friday at the University of Ghana in Legon. And I am on leave, I should say, from my university on sabbatical, Roosevelt University in Chicago, which is gracious enough to give me a leave for a year to pursue this dream. And so I typically am writing, or I'm creating videos, I'm uploading photos and sound and videos that I've shot the previous week or the previous weekend. I'm categorizing my stuff. I'm getting my notes in order. I'm preparing for class. And I'm also scheduling interviews and going out doing interviews. And in addition to my thesis, my research project, Africa Calling: Portraits of Black Americans Drawn to the Motherland, I'm also simply immersed in the culture. So I'm taking snapshots of Ghana, looking at the water supply and the absence of potable water here in Ghana for so many people, something we take for granted, but how you can see in Ghana the coexistence. In one place, you see luxury and opulence, and on the very next door, you see abject poverty. So taking portraits of people, I've got an idea. I guess I'll share this that I'm going to do this week. One of the things that has struck me, continues to strike me, I marvel at it every day when I see it, is the women are mostly the street merchants. And what I mean by that, they sell everything from water to everything imaginable to food that they make at home. And so if you can imagine riding down Michigan Avenue, and there's a lot of traffic, and the merchants, the women, are walking in between the cars selling their wares. And the fascinating thing about it that I find is that these sisters carry on their heads weight that brothers would find difficulty carrying in their arms.
And they balance it?
They balance it, and they do it with the poise of a runway model in Paris. It is unbelievable. And one of my friends, I'll give him a shout out, his name is Chris Crane. He has this song, and I was listening to this song, and I said, I'm going to go out this week, and I'm going to take portraits up close and personal of these women carrying their wares, because it's elegant, it's beautiful. And his song is called Madam Queen. And I use that term a lot in Ghana, Madame.
Oh,
and
Madame. Okay.
So beautiful in what I see, and so appropriate for what I see transpiring before my eyes every day.
Okay, so if the women are, doing everything and selling all the products and walking the streets and walking between cars and carrying everything on their head, what are the men doing?
There are men who are merchants as well. They sell wares as well. But you see the preponderance of people who are selling their wares in the street or the markets that exist along the roadways, they're women. And one of the things, for instance, the house that I'm in now, there is construction going on next door. And these brothers they were building the house when I came, and they're not using big, fanciful, technologically advanced equipment. They are using their hands and small tools, and it is incredible the the craftsmanship and the diligence in terms of their work. I've said that Ghana goes to sleep at night, but when it awakens, Ghana goes to work. I've never seen anything like this. Well, actually, I have. I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this.
You probably will.
But that's all right. I don't mind. As a people, as African Americans, I think we've lost some of that. Some of that hard grit, tough work ethic because a lot of people here, this is subsistence living. These people are, the cedi, which is the Ghanaian dollar, has fallen. When I got here, it was 6 cedi for every American dollar, US dollar. And now it's 8 cedi for every American dollar. So just to put that into perspective, if I take a long Uber drive and it costs me 50 cedi, in terms of American dollars, I paid $6, a little more than $6. And so that isn't very much to us, but it is essential, to their living. And I'm not kidding you. I've spent some time down on the Mississippi farm in Isola, Mississippi Delta, but I've never seen so many goats and chickens in my life.
Wow.
In Accra, in the major city, the capital city of Ghana. And it is, but I will tell you this, I think that there needs to be a bridging of the gap of understanding of who we are as Africans and as African Americans, and a bridging of the gap in the sense that we no longer, that we diffuse this idea of tribalism, and that we see ourselves across the black diaspora as one, that we have to become the healer, the lifter, the sustainer of ourselves. And I've gone on way too long. I just went off on a deep end on a tangent. So I'll stop there.
No, but that's perfectly fine. They also, I know last year they were offering citizenship. In other words, if I wanted to go to Ghana and become a citizen, I could. Are they still offering that?
Citizenship in Ghana is not difficult to get. There's still they offer dual citizenship for African Americans, but I should dispel a myth here. I heard before I came, and I read actually in some newspapers, and people are circulating that they're giving free land to African Americans.
I heard that too. I was going to ask about. I heard that.
That's a myth.
That's a myth. Okay. Well, citizenship is good enough. Speaking of the opulence, you mentioned that you've never seen such opulence, because I've heard of other African cities. You know how you don't think of them as being an upscale opulent city. Let's talk about that.
Africa is, and I think we have to drive this home to our young people to get them to understand, to educate them about the original man and the resources of Africa. We were standing in a place called Asanmanso River, which is called also Slave River. And Slave River is the place where they would bring the slaves sometimes on 2.5-month journey. Right before they got to the last part of the journey to go to the slave castle, they would have the slaves bathe in this river. And we can talk about that later, but they would have them bathe in this river. And as I'm standing in the river, my family and I, we are sifting through the water, because they encourage you just to not bathe, but to let the waters wash over you. And we see gold flecks in the river. Gold flecks. And I say, what's that? They say, that's gold.
Oh, jeez.
Africa, Ghana exports gold and bauxite and cocoa and diamonds, and that exists across Africa. And so it is a resource-rich country, and Africa is a resource-rich continent, which explains why the plunderers, the colonists came here and essentially pillaged and raped and enslaved, and they exported the resources. And so what's happening now, there is a kind of new colonialism, which is a larger other discussion, which is happening.
I'm going to ask you about that, the Chinese influence.
With the Chinese who are doing illegal gold mining and also doing illegal fishing with these huge fishing trawlers.
How are they keeping that under the radar, so to speak?
It's not under the radar.
It's not?
It is not. Everybody in Africa knows it. The question is, why are they being allowed to do it? And so it's very clear, becomes very clear that I can't, as an African American or as a U.S. citizen, go to China and decide I'm simply going to take fish. And so I'd have to get some sort of government approval to do that. So they are getting some sort of approval to do it. And there's an organization called the Environmental Justice Foundation that's run by, it's a United Kingdom nonprofit that has examined both of those issues intensely. And they say that the fishing industry, for instance, just the fishing industry, it is jeopardizing the jobs of 1.4 million Ghanaians. Not only that, but I went up to the Volta region. Lake Volta is the largest man-made lake in the world. It exists in Ghana. And up there, with the largest man-made lake in the world, you'd imagine what the industry is. It's fishing. Mm-hmm. And the day I happened to be there, these fishermen have what they call canoes. They are the largest canoes. If anyone wants to see what they look like, just go to my website at hereafricacalling.com, and you can get a picture of these big fishing canoes. And what I saw when I went there is that there were so many fishermen who were sitting on the sand because they said there are no fish in the sea. And the reason there are no fish is because the Chinese are extracting them, and they're using dynamite, which is as a form of fishing, and it changes the ecosystem, and it is jeopardizing not only their jobs, but their lives.
And what about the fishermen that are in Ghana that fish? What about them?
They're still
fish there. Oh wow.
They're still fishing, but it is becoming an extinct resource, and it's something that is not sustainable given the amount of fish that the Chinese are taking out of the waterways. And not only that, but because they're changing the ecosystem and killing fish, it is just going to be, it is catastrophic, is essentially how the Environmental Justice Foundation describes it. And not only that, but the Chinese are using Ghanaian trawlers, companies that front for them. But it's the Chinese who are actually getting the fish and reaping the benefits, reaping the money. And so there's also that sort of, because of the illegal fishing, there are millions and millions of dollars in fines that the Ghanaian government is not getting.
So they're losing resources, money. It's the ecosystem, the economic infrastructure. Speaking of economic infrastructure, in 2018, the Chinese had a loan to Ghana, and they said that they were going to build out the infrastructure. So are you seeing an improvement in bridges and hospitals and roads? And how? I'm just asking. That's what we're supposed to do, right?
Let me put on my Ghanaian voice. I'm trying to pick up some of their inflection, and one of my Ghanaian brothers, hey, infrastructure. What is? No. Look. Here's the deal. If you are in Accra, and again, I love Ghana. Please know I love Ghana. I love the people. But you cannot come here with a semi-critical eye and not see that infrastructure is completely lacking in this country. They need to fix the roads. You can be on a paved road in any place in Accra, the capital city, make a left or make a right, and you are now on a crater-filled, almost lunar kind of road where you are literally sometimes in fear of whether or not the car is going to make it. And something as simple as street bulbs. They have lights or lamps on the highways, but they don't have bulbs in many of them. And so that if you're driving down the motorway, and this is just simply fact, you're driving down the motorway, there are no overpasses. So what you see, there are no overpasses, and so there are no lights, and you see people who need to get to the other side of the road who are on foot, pedestrians, and there it's a game of cat and mouse getting across the motorway.
Oh,
and so, there needs to be an improvement in infrastructure. Everyone knows that in Ghana, if you're in Ghana, your lights are going to go out at some point. Your power is going to go out. Your water is going to go out. And those are, I think, in the whole scheme of things, those are small things in terms of the beauty of Ghana and what it offers and what it means. Because I haven't even talked about what it means for me to be a Black man in Ghana. And the truth is, I'm not a Black man in Ghana. I am a man in Ghana. Mm-hmm. What that means in terms of my own psyche, and the freedom of that, and the respect of that, of my skin. And so there is so much here, but there is room for infrastructure improvement, and it needs to be done in a way that benefits Ghana and does not benefit China. And that China does not have any ownership or any hand in this, because they're extracting resources, and rather than the deal being a loan to the country of Ghana for those resources, they ought to be paying for those resources outright.
And I don't know if that's going to happen, since they're actually going unchecked from what I'm hearing.
Yes.
But it sounds like there's other dollar drainers too over there. There's Arabs, there's Koreans, there's whites.
Yes.
I mean,
yes. Well, the major malls here, there's a Accra Mall, but there are a number of other shopping malls. And there are Palace Mall, which are owned by the Lebanese. Oh, and there's China Mall, which are owned obviously by the Chinese. And I'm not. I don't have an aversion to anyone, but growing up on the west side of Chicago and seeing this sort of extraction of our resources from our neighborhood, of going to shop at stores where we have to put our money through a bulletproof glass, a tray, and we have people who don't look at us, don't speak to us, don't regard us. The last thing I want to do as an African American, as a Black man, is to feel any of that in Africa. And it exists.
Same story.
Same story.
What happened to E. Roland? He must be. He's E. Roland.
No, I'm here. I am just taking it all in. I am here.
Okay, if you want to pop in and ask some questions, we're going to talk about the Unforgotten 51 now, because I thought that was interesting, and a lot of people haven't heard about it. Can you kind of give us, a synopsis of the Unforgotten 51?
Sure. In Chicago, for those who don't know, from 2001 to 2018, there were a number of women, mostly African American, who were murdered, and some of them were at least one dismembered, at least one set on fire, and their bodies dumped in vacant lots and abandoned buildings. And there have been some initial stories over that time period about some of these women, but for the most part, they fell through the cracks, and they were not looked at in any definitive way, mostly by the mainstream media. There were some stories, but nothing encompassing. And as I began as a professor at Roosevelt University, seeking a convergence journalism project, the capstone project for my students, I needed a story that had some heft and some depth and some breadth to it. And so I began to look at that story. And one of the things that emerged for me is that as I read the stories about the women, I kept asking myself, who were these women? And they summarily dismiss them as prostitutes, as women of the night, as drug addicts and alcoholics and so on. But I'm reading and I'm like, who were these women? I couldn't find, but a little bit of information. And I said, I've come to understand that as a journalist, the thing that we do that is most powerful, aside from simply informing people of what's going on in the world, and this certainly is a way of informing people, the thing that we do that's most powerful is we humanize people, we humanize stories. And so it became my students' project, our endeavor, to try and put a name in the face and the stories to these women, and to say that their lives mattered. We weren't trying to solve the cases. We were trying to document that this had happened to them, to shine the light, to bring some additional spotlight to them, and simply to tell their story.
For the most part, when you looked into these 51 women, what did you find? That they were average, typical women, students, mothers, teachers, dancers? Were they just everyday women?
For the most part, that is exactly the way you described it. Some of them were educated, and it was very clear to me that they were somebody's sister, in some cases somebody's mother, somebody's daughter, somebody's aunt, and they mattered. And it is very clear to me as a journalist for more than 30 years, and what I've experienced inside American newsrooms, and this is not a pure indictment of American journalism, but there is a reason that we fall prey in the mainstream press to missing white woman syndrome, as I think the late Gwen Ifill defined it. And that is, when a white woman goes missing, we pull out all the stops. But when it's a sister, or when she's black or brown, or when she's poor, or even when she is middle class and doing well and an entrepreneur, her color matters in terms of how people, whether the media decides to do their story. And so we wanted to show that, because status doesn't matter. When it all boils down to it, it's about humanity. And the fact that, I kept, and some of my students kept imagining the reality that some of these women, when they were being killed, were screaming for their lives and hoping someone would come for them. And, and I can't help but say that, as a church boy, reading the scripture that says when Cain killed Abel, and God asked Cain, what did he do? And he said, because your brother's blood cries out to me from the grave. And I said, if that was the word, and I believe that, and I won't preach, but if that was the word, if Abel's blood was crying out, what about 51 these women? What about the murdered children in Chicago and all of this stuff that goes on? And so we tried to bring some hope and some solace to the family, and to say that the lives of their daughters, their mothers, their sisters mattered. And the truth is, many of those families had not been contacted by police since the first time that they came to tell them that their loved one had been slain.
And none of the cases have been solved, and they're just saying that it's apparently, I don't know, one or two serial killers. It's probably still out there.
The Murder Accountability Project, which has done some incredible work, and they deserve the credit for bringing so much of this to light, along with Pam Zeckman from CBS, who I think partnered with the Murder Accountability Project, which is based in Alexandria, Virginia. And there has been one case of the 51, Diamond Turner, in which a man has been charged, but police investigators say that while they believe he was responsible for, may have been maybe implicated in other murders, that it was not involving any of those women, the other 50. And so those cases remain largely unsolved, but somebody knows something, and the families deserve closure. Yeah. And I think the public deserves protection from whomever is out there doing this.
Well, I'm really glad that you're bringing light to it, and this project is bringing light to it, and it needs to be more light brought to it because I think a lot of people haven't heard of it.
Amen.
You know,
I think too that people who have heard of it, I think we are so inundated with violence and
we are.
And murder. And so people, they hear about it and then they sort of quickly dismiss it and they say, well, what can I do about it? You can do whatever you feel led to do. You can do what you would do if it was your mother, or if it was your sister, or if it was your daughter. And you can share the stories with friends, and you can talk about it at your church and find out, brainstorm what you can do just in terms of protecting other women and keeping them from falling prey to this, and educating our young men as well. So there are lots of things that we can do, and they are as many as there are people with ideas who want to make a change.
And you just gave me one. I think I'm going to do a show dedicated to it and use your project as a backdrop, because you looked at all 51, so I can literally talk about all 51. And,
Yes.
Maybe we can have someone on here who can tell women how to avoid this happening. Maybe, well, they don't really know how it happened. I'd like for them to trace the steps and find out what happened, but there's so many unknowns. But just to make people aware is a good thing.
Yeah.
Now we're going to talk about another project that you had. That's a downer. Ooh. Invasion of Faith, which is another downer. Invasion of Faith. It looked like you partnered with one of my friendly churches, St. Sabina. Is that true?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
That is true. Well, St. Sabina has been doing this for a while. Every summer, they decide that they're going to march, and this Invasion of Faith, in which they march through their own community, through Auburn, Gresham, and they seek to address the issue of violence, to offer people help and hope. It's not a membership drive, which is what I've seen from many of the churches I belong to in my life. And I can vouch that, going out and watching St. Sabina do what it did, they weren't trying to get members. They were trying to heal the community. And so I got the idea that I wanted to see what happens when the cameras go, when the news people go away, and to really see this process, because I think what happens is from a community grassroots effort, because I think what happens is the media comes when somebody gets shot. They come when there's a so-called scandal. They come when there's a star basketball player. They come when there's a great scholarship athlete or a scholarship student, and they should come for those things. But I think they miss the daily life and the grind of how do you address and change a social problem that is entrenched within the community. And so I wanted to see how that happened in the summer, just how St. Sabina went about it. And I saw something that was really, really amazing, that was really beautiful to me, and that just really spoke to me about the power of the church when the church leaves the building. When the church leaves the building, and it is really powerful.
And what did you find out when the church leaves the building, when all the lights are out, when the media's
I find that when the church leaves the building, and people know in the community that the church cares, when the church is transparent, and when the church touches the untouchable. I saw Father Flager and his community, the faith community of St. Sabina, reaching out to people along their walks.
Mm-hmm.
On one evening, there was a young lady who apparently had some argument with a young man in the car. He kicked her out of the car right as we're walking. On a very hot day, kicked her out of the car with a baby. Happens before our very eyes. And the church I'm used to just keeps it moving. They just move on. It's not their problem. But St. Sabina stopped.
Yep.
And Flager prayed. And not only did they pray, but when he was done praying, there was the mothers came over and said, what can we do to help you? And they sought to deal with solutions. One of I think the most moving things is I saw Father Flager and the men of the church approach brothers on the street who were just out there doing their thing. And there was the smell of marijuana, weed in the air. And the amazing thing for me is he did not judge them.
Nope.
He did not tell them, hey, brothers, y'all don't need to smoke them joints. Y'all need to put them blunts down. As a matter of fact, there was a brother who continued to roll a blunt while Father Blake was standing there talking to him.
That'll happen, yeah.
And he didn't get caught up. He didn't get sidetracked. But he kept speaking to those brothers and touching them and saying, look, the church is here for you. We want you to be safe. Come see us. We've got programs to help you with. And we're praying for you. We love you. And that's powerful. I write sometimes about the church and I say, I'm convinced that the church will never come to the streets to get young men. And that too often it has no message for what ails the 21st century Black male soul.
That's powerful. That's a powerful testament for Saint Sabina too. I've always been, I used to go there many years ago. And that's with you saying that just reinforces everything that everyone feels about them and that people say about them. Look what time it is. Where is E. Roland? E. Roland, you've got to get in here. We got 5 minutes left.
I told you I am here. I am taking this in. As I did when he spoke at Southland, I was in the back watching the whole thing. Almost missed my whole cue. Like, oh, yes.
Did you hear what he said about Saint Sabina?
Of course I did.
Okay.
We're not doing this with you today now.
Okay, we're not doing
this. Thank you.
But we are going to ask you. So you're there now. When or can you even say when you're coming back?
Well, my scholarship officially ends in August. I should say it actually ends in July, and I'm due back around the first week in August. But I'm probably going to cut it short, and I'm going to. I've been sort of on a rapid pace since I've been here, and I'm expeditiously trying to complete my research.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So as they would say in church, soon and very soon.
Soon and very soon. There you go. And how can people reach you? Just say if they had an event coming up in September, you'll be here in September, and they wanted you to speak or meet with a group, or do they go to your website?
Sure, johnwfountain.com, or email me at author@johnwfountain.com.
And are you in the process of writing a book right now?
I am. It is Africa Calling.
You're writing that right now. Okay.
Yes. But I have toyed with the title, and I will tell you, I'm still living this experience. And so where I am now, if I was titling this book, it would be I Love Ghana and Ghana Almost Loved Me.
Almost. I love Ghana and Ghana almost loved me. Okay.
Now that's deep.
But I'm still here. The jury's still out.
Do you notice, and this is not even, I mean, I'm just curious. Do you notice a lot of racial mixing with all the other ethnic groups being in Ghana now?
Well,
I'm trying to ask it very nice. Shut up, Elliot.
I will say that I typically mostly see Ghanaians with Ghanaians and Black folks. But the truth is, too, that with the influx of Lebanese, with the influx of Chinese, there's an increasing number of Ghanaian women who are marrying Chinese and Lebanese men and dating Chinese and Lebanese men. That is not uncommon.
So the face of the continent will be changing, or the face of Ghana may be well, we won't even go into that.
That is something that people are discussing. Yes.
And
some would say that it's not by happenstance.
That is, oh my gosh. Yep.
There we go. That's another can right there.
I'm not going there today. That'll be another discussion. But you know where I'm going. It has been my pleasure to not only talk to you about everything that you're doing, but to kind of get a glimpse of a day in the life of Ghana to kind of parallel the lives of Ghanaians and African Americans and how both of us are being exploited the same way.
Yes.
It's in the resource drain. You would think that the continent of Africa has had a resource drain from outsiders since the beginning. And it continues on. I guess it will continue until...
The beauty, the hope is that there are people who recognize the same old playbook and understand that the hope of Ghana, the hope of the Black diaspora, people across the Black diaspora, is for us to come together, for us to begin to think as one. It sounds like old Garveyism, but it is true about us, and I know I'm going to hit home now. It's not about Omega Psi Phi or Kappa Alpha Psi. There is no distinction. We are brothers.
Right.
Greek and non-Greek, or AKA, or...
No, why you have to go there? I'm just...
Get her. Why you have to
go there?
I was waiting on it.
I'm joking.
Look, either we're brothers and sisters or we're not.
That's true. Very
and
true.
So I went yesterday. I just got back from a place called Prom, Ghana. And in Prom, there's a brother whose name is Jerry Johnson. He's created something called the African Ancestral Wall. And he's from America. And he's been here for a number of years. And he has created these portraits of heroes and sheroes across the Black diaspora. And one of the things that is so startling for me and just simply beautiful is that the wall begins with Eve, but she's not the Eve that we've been taught. She is golden brown, look like the earth. She's got a short afro and a broad nose, and it's very clear that she is African. And it ends with another shero, Frances Cress Welsing, whose theories on race and racism exposed white racism and give us clarity about how we need to deal with this issue. And so Jerry's idea is that we have to educate ourselves, and not only as African Americans, as Africans, and understand that we are one. There is hope. Imagine what would happen if Black folk in America decided we were going to support Black folk in America and build our own. We have examples of Tulsa, Black Wall Street. What happened when we decide to do that? And so the cavalry isn't coming to save us. And the Chinese, when they show up, they're not coming to save us. And so we have got to save ourselves.
That's right.
No one can save us from us but us.
On a final note, because I hear this all the time when I talk pro-Africa, have you ever found any pushback because you're African American from your African sisters or brothers?
I have, and that's why I say Ghana almost loved me.
Really? You have?
Yes.
Because you're African American, they don't, okay.
Here's the reality, and I said this to a couple of Ghanaian brothers, and they said I was right. I said, yeah, you're right. I said if I learned to speak perfect Tree, which is one of the major languages here, and I wore the native clothes, y'all still wouldn't accept me as brother. He said, that's right.
Good point.
And so
you're there.
And so when I'm at the slave castle, this is the second time that I visited the slave castles, and I went to Anson Manso Slave River, and it was very clear as they described all of this, and I know some of the history, that the white man could not have enslaved us for 400 years unless he had help.
That's it.
That's true. That's true.
Because malaria was killing them. And so I purchased 2 books while I was here, one from one of the docents at the slave castle, and I began to read about Ghana's hand in slavery. and how there were chiefs who started wars to capture Africans, to sell them for
monetary gain.
for liquor and guns and so on. And there's a parallel to what's happened in America. But we've got to resolve that and understand that this is my brother, that we are Black, that we have to heal ourselves, love ourselves, that we are the answer. We have to do that. We have to. So I will say this, that I think that everyone should visit the motherland. Everyone Black should put their feet in Africa because it is a spiritual experience.
Yes.
My grandfather, whose name was George Hagler, was raised by his great-grandfather, by his grandfather, who was my great-great-grandfather. His name was Burton Roy, and he was born a slave. So when I touched my grandfather, who I knew all of my life, he lived to 97 years old, I touched slavery. So when I got into the Anson Maso River, I hadn't planned on anything. But as I began to talk, I was fighting tears because I understood there was something happening. When I stepped into the river, I stumbled. And I was overwhelmed by the sense of loss and the sense of my ancestors having been there. And so when I got out of the river, I went up to the wall and I wrote something that said essentially, John Fountain, grandson of George Hagler, great-great-grandson of Burton Roy, have returned you home. I brought him back. And it fills my soul. I brought my folk back here. And whether Ghanaians would ever accept me fully as African, I am unashamedly, I am undeniably African. Clearly I'm African, but I'm also unashamedly and undeniably American. I'm that compound word, African and American. And I am the hope and dream of the slave. We represent those who came through all of that struggle, who survived the Middle Passage, who survived that hell, and survived the hell in America, and rose up to build institutions. 3/5 of a person who became great in this country, built a country that if it doesn't belong to us, it belongs to no one. And so that's who we are. That's from where we come. And so even if my Ghanaian brothers, and I ain't mad at them because they need to be educated. And what I've learned this time around is that their children aren't taught the history of slavery. Most Ghanaians have never been to the slave castles because that's not their history. That's our history. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not mad at them. We all have work to do. And even if they never embrace me, I embrace them because they are my brother. They are my brother and my sisters. And we have to work this thing out.
Elliot, did you feel something like that when you were in the motherland?
Most definitely. Oh my goodness. It's been 2 years and I still haven't quite put all the correct words together, but you owe it to yourself to go and just have the experience.
It's interesting because I haven't been to the motherland yet. I have a sister that used to go over there on a medical mission. Matter of fact, she's on right now, but she would go every year for a medical mission and she'd tell us about it. But I felt a feeling like that, not like a spiritual feeling, but a feeling of sadness, like something had happened. And I won't go back to this state. I felt like that in South Carolina. And I don't know why. I don't know why. There was something that came over me and I'm like, we need to get out of here. In South Carolina, it's like, don't take me back to that state. But I will have to go to the motherland so I can feel that real connection because like you, I too am African and American. So Boy, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much. And you know what I always say, I'm gonna have you come back when you get back from Africa in August, July, whenever.
Yes,
Because
yes.
we have to talk more on this, and I want to even expand the conversation. Ellie, don't tell them where I'm going, because I'm just. But anyway, we will have to expand this conversation. It has been, I feel like you took me to school with this hour conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I'm
Well,
sure
thank you.
the listening audience, I'm going to have to replay this because it got a late start. We lost a lot of people, but I'm going to put it back on again so they can hear you, because it's definitely some nuggets. It's even more than nuggets. It's great information. Thank you so much. And I wish you the best over there in Ghana. We'll be hitting you up, checking on you, seeing how things are going.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay, take care and thanks, and hope you and your family be blessed.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Good night, everyone. We'll be back next week on The Voices of Change. Special guest, Khalid Scott. It'll be our Relationship Sunday, and we'll talk about some relationship issues, and we'll see you next Sunday, same time at 6 p.m. And Elliot.
Yes.
You were quiet.
Because I was taking it in. I knew I was going to class. That's why I wanted to just
my
be
gosh.
on.
He took us to school, right?
Yeah. Yes,
He took me to
definitely.
school. He took us to school. I see why he's a professor, because he has a natural teaching spirit.
Yes.
So yeah, he was good. If you have any other interesting people like that, please feel free to tell me and let me know, so we can. I know that these kind of shows oftentimes don't get the listenership that we would want, or the numbers, but numbers aren't important. Content is. And this has awesome content.
Yes.
And I've never seen you so quiet, but I think it may be because you're babysitting. Oops, I didn't mean to tell your business.
Oh, no, the baby is not here anymore.
I was saying he's running away because he's babysitting. I know what's going on. Okay.
No, I like I said, I was taking it all in. I'm like, yes.
Man, he was wow. I mean, as he was saying it, you can kind of visualize how it would be and how it would look. And
well, yeah, and of course, a lot of that I was there in Ghana to see. So
I know you were just there. Was it last year? 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Mm-hmm.
2 years ago. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So that's exciting. All right, then I guess we're going to close this show out, and we'll be back next week. Again, we're going to talk about relationships, and we'll be talking about mistresses and side pieces, and special guest Khalid Scott. We may have a few more special guests. Some other people expressed interest and said that they had some value to add to the conversation, so maybe we'll do that. But we'll be on next week at 6 p.m., and we look forward to seeing you, and tell a friend to tune in. And signing off from Intellectual Radio, Voices of Change. Have a blessed week.
Bye.
Peace.